My name is Marcus Ellington, and I am 42 years old. For most of my life, I believed I had everything a person could want. I lived in the heart of Toronto, in a luxurious condo that overlooked the skyline, a place that symbolized success to everyone who visited. I worked as a senior executive in one of Canada's top investment firms, known for handling major portfolios and international deals. I was the man people called when they wanted results, and I delivered every time. I wasn't just good at my job, I was celebrated for it. Business magazines featured me in their top 40 under 40 lists. LGBTQ+ organizations invited me to speak on panels about success and empowerment, and my social media was filled with pictures of lavish vacations, dinners with influential people, and moments that screamed perfection. I lived with my partner Daniel, and we had been together for over a decade. To the outside world, we were the model of prosperity and stability. But beneath that carefully curated image, something gnawed at me. My mother, a woman of deep Christian faith, had never stopped praying for me. She would call me occasionally, her voice soft yet firm, always ending the conversation with, "Marcus, I just want you to remember that God loves you." I would roll my eyes, smile politely, and change the subject. In my mind, she was holding on to outdated beliefs that had no place in my modern successful life. Then came August 2019, the day that would change everything. I had been working on a multi-million-dollar deal that had dragged on for months. The stress was unbearable, my sleep was shallow, my diet terrible, and the endless shots of espresso had become my fuel. That Friday, as I walked into the boardroom, my chest tightened like a vice. I tried to ignore it, brushing it off as anxiety. But within moments, everything collapsed. A sharp, crushing pain spread across my chest, my vision blurred, and I felt myself falling. I vaguely remember hearing my own voice calling for help before everything went black. I was later told my heart had stopped for just over 7 minutes. But in those 7 minutes, I saw and experienced something far more real than life itself. At first, I found myself floating above the chaos. I watched as my assistant screamed for help, and a colleague frantically dialed 911. I could see my own body slumped on the floor, pale and lifeless. Yet I felt no fear, no panic, only a strange calm. Suddenly, I was pulled by an unseen force, as if a powerful current was dragging me beyond the limits of time and space. What I entered was unlike anything I had ever imagined, sheets of living color swirling like waves of emotion. As I moved through them, I began to relive my entire life. Every conversation, every decision, every moment of kindness, cruelty, laughter, or silence, it was all there, vivid and undeniable. But it wasn't just my perspective. I felt what others had felt because of me. I felt Daniel's loneliness whenever I prioritized work over our relationship. I felt my mother's heartache when I dismissed her prayers. I felt the sting of people I had belittled, the admiration of those I never acknowledged. It was overwhelming. There were no excuses left, no shields of success or titles to hide behind. Every choice echoed in eternity. And for the first time, I realized how far I had drifted, not only from God, but from the person I was created to be. Then came a moment that will forever be etched in my soul. I sensed a presence approaching, not like a man walking into a room, but like the atmosphere itself shifted. The colors stilled, and everything grew quiet. Then he appeared. I didn't need an introduction. I knew instantly it was Jesus Christ. He wasn't like the paintings or stained glass depictions I had seen in old churches. He was brighter than light itself, yet not blinding. His presence was fire and truth, but also safety. I wanted to fall to my knees and hide, yet I had never felt so loved. He didn't speak with words, but his voice thundered directly into my soul. And what he showed me shattered me. Faces, lives, souls. Some I knew personally. Friends, colleagues, activists, and leaders I once admired. Others I barely recognized. They were people I had partied with, people I had encouraged, people I had applauded. And where were they now? Not in joy, not in light, but in darkness. Not fire, not devils with pitchforks, but something far worse. Isolation, regret, emptiness, a sorrow so deep it screamed louder than any physical pain. And Jesus made it clear. They weren't in that place because of their sexuality. They were there because they had rejected truth, chosen their own will over God's, and followed a path that looked like freedom but was actually deception. When his gaze fell on me, I could hardly stand it. There was no anger in his eyes, only deep sorrow. Sorrow for the pride, the lies I believed, and the influence I had on others. Jesus showed me my life as a ripple effect. I saw how my confidence, my speeches, my very image as a successful gay businessman had encouraged others to believe a lie, that you can live without God and still be fulfilled. I never intended to mislead anyone, but I saw how my silence about the truth had influenced others' destinies. Then, he brought me into a place I can only describe as a spiritual courtroom. Though there were no walls or judges, only pure light. My entire life was laid bare, every forgotten moment returning with piercing clarity. I saw myself brushing off Daniel's concerns, mocking my mom's faith, even encouraging a young colleague to embrace a lifestyle that deep down I knew hadn't given me peace. Then Jesus opened a book glowing with life. At the top of the page was my name, Marcus Ellington. But to my horror, the words of my story began to fade. "Why is it disappearing?" I cried out in my spirit. The answer pierced through me. "Because your choices are erasing the story I wrote for you." I broke down. God had written a purpose for me, yet I had spent my life scribbling over it with pride, comfort, and lies. Then came a vision I will never forget. Jesus showed me two possible futures. On the first path, I stayed the same, living with Daniel, growing wealthier, more influential, more admired. Outwardly, I looked fulfilled, but inside I was hollow. When I died on that path, I saw my soul drift from God, not in flames, but in cold, eternal separation. On the second path, I gave everything up, my career, my reputation, my comfort, even my relationship with Daniel. It was painful, humiliating, lonely at times, but I also saw people coming to me, broken people, searching for truth. I saw myself speaking with humility instead of pride, eyes filled with peace instead of emptiness. I was finally living the life I was created for. Jesus looked at me and said, "This is still possible, but the choice is yours." With everything in me, I begged him for another chance. I didn't care what it would cost. I just wanted to live his story for my life. And then, I woke up. I gasped for breath in a hospital bed, machines beeping around me, IVs in my arm. My chest ached, but I was alive. Daniel was there, holding my hand with tears in his eyes. The doctors called it a miracle. 7 minutes and 31 seconds without a heartbeat, yet no brain damage. But I knew the greater miracle was what I had seen. In the days that followed, I could not keep silent. I told Daniel everything. He looked at me in disbelief, brushing it off as trauma or a dream. But I knew it was real. Within weeks, I resigned from my firm, walked away from my wealth, and ended my relationship with Daniel. The world thought I had lost my mind. News outlets called it a breakdown, critics labeled me a fanatic, but I didn't care. I had glimpsed eternity, and no applause, paycheck, or romance was worth losing it. Soon, people began reaching out to me privately. Some were colleagues, others young men and women who had once looked up to me. They admitted they were empty too, even though the world praised them. Some began seeking God for the first time. One young man told me he was planning to end his life until he heard my story, and instead, he walked into a church. Today, I live a simple life in a quiet neighborhood. I no longer wear designer suits or chase million-dollar deals. Instead, I lead small Bible studies, speak in churches, and share my story wherever I'm invited. And every time I remember Jesus' words, "Tell them everything you saw," I still hear the cries of those souls in torment. I still see their faces. And that is why I will never stop speaking. Because heaven is real, hell is real, and every choice we make echoes in eternity. If you are watching this, I believe it's no accident. Just like I was given another chance, you too have a choice. Don't wait. Don't ignore that stirring in your heart. Turn to Jesus today. He isn't waiting with condemnation. He's waiting with truth, love, and freedom. I am Marcus Ellington. I died. I saw eternity. And I came back to tell you that Jesus is the only way.